All right. Oh, it's on.
Live. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we are live then, right?
All right. We got all three people. Yes. Yes. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mighty Quin Show live. And I am right here in my so-called bedroom, called a studio. So, what I have here is my two failures to communicate. We got All right, first we got on the podcast, we got Myke Shrews for Operation Babel, one of my best buds that conversed with for a while. So, hello.
Hello.
All right, and also the next item that's going to be on the far end of the stick here is a gentleman that I've actually had the honor to know as my friend. Although both of you are my friends, so let's state the obvious. But he also is one of the managers of a well-known national haunt here in Ohio. So let's give it up for Fester. Hello.
How's it going?
All right, so. All right, so the reason why you guys are here, I guess, to some case, I wanted to have a conversation about my journey being in this culture called horror, where I am a punk ass bitch about, like, because I've been in this oh no, I just been in this headspace for a very long while, where I am not a fan of horror films. Like 0%.
Right.
And like what was it? I mean, like the first movie I was scared crapless was The Creature from the Black Lagoon. You see what I'm talking about? It's bullshit.
I think the first movie that creeped me out would have had to have been Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Birds?
Yo.
Yeah. I can see that. I think the first one that got me, because I was really, really freaking young, was Dolly Dearest. And a little kid should not watch that.
Is it about a doll?
Yeah.
Yep. No, I will not watch that. Fuck that.
I watched Dolly Dearest, which is like, if you just look up pictures of it, it'll freak you out. And then I watched Dolls. As I grew up, I realized Dolls, it's not so bad. Like, the dolls aren't necessarily bad because they're only killing bad people in that movie. Yeah. But Dolly Dearest, they just kill everybody. So I'm like, no.
Believe it or not, being a huge horror fanatic in that, I cannot watch anything to do with Annabelle related because of the porcelain dolls. I hate The Grudge. I hate The Ring. Those movies I cannot watch. They creep me out.
I was actually
Jesus, I was the hater. Like,
I was actually just down in the Keys a few weeks ago, and down there in Key West is where they have Robert the Doll, which is like what they've based every cursed doll movie off of. He's like a real, supposed to be like a real cursed or demonic doll that they have on the 24/7 camera watch. So it was freaky. It was, yeah, definitely.
Right.
In real life, I can watch Chucky and all that shit, but when you see the stuff in real life, you definitely feel like, maybe I shouldn't be here.
Right.
I actually want to check out the actual Amityville horror house.
I thought they burnt that down years ago.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's just a plot of land now.
Right. And but going back to what I was saying, like,
sorry,
I don't know, like what came to me on just to realize that, for the fact that I dislike horror films, why am I in a culture of horror where I can find it as a lifestyle? Because like one of the fancy things I actually do, per se, horror is literally just fuck with people's heads.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I just got this this knack of just literally just like, just literally scaring people just by some of the things I end up being, saying. So if I'm like, I've actually, I'm going to speak this on, on record. Just yesterday, I was at an audition at Field of Fear where, me and Fester work at. And there were there was a gallows over there. You know, like we got a couple of nooses and like this little false guillotine they got over there.
Yeah.
And I looked at the owners. They go by Brandon Casey, and I was like, "Do you happen to realize how many black people are going to end up looking at that?" And and there was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, look, if I'm going to be out there, if I'm going to be right by the gallows, just sneak right behind a black person and say, "Hey, reminds you of home, right?"
Wow.
So yeah, and that's why it's like, I mean, for some odd reason, just me fucking with you in that form of style, just I guess I feel more home, bringing that sense of honesty, but at the same time, bringing that little nightmares side where I could just literally just fuck with the heads.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the joy of that, because there's like so much character study I've done over the years, like when it comes down to like different films. Actually,
to take off of what you said, dude, like I think that's where Jordan Peele kind of takes off with some of his horror films that he's done. He'll make you, kind of feel uncomfortable at the same time, but he's also just using old horror elements that we've all known and recognized for years. But he's doing it within a race themed element. Yeah. So
right. So I mean, I guess in that way, I found it like extremely relatable.
You're the poor Jordan Peele.
Hey, I will take that. Less ugly too. So I mean, like it's like.
Believe it or not, Quinn, speaking from 17 years working in the haunt industry, a lot of actors that I've come across who cannot handle horror movies end up being some of the best actors because from what I've experienced with them, they get to live out their fears and instill their fears into someone else to help build up their characteristics.
Right. And I honestly make I will honestly agree with you. Because the first time, like even auditioning, like at the haunt, all I did was looked at one character, and just literally like the first thing that literally comes to mind, I start like painting this picture, like
Although at the audition you were scared, you were nervous as a little kid going into school for the first time, but I gotta admit, throughout the haunt season, you really developed yourself.
Right. And like I said, with all that is true. Mm-hmm. But when I went in there, and I mean, like when I went to you and started, acted, this character out, I was just reminding myself of my lazy ass uncle, and like the way he talked, like he had this northern accent but a southern attitude, which was like very, very new, not New York, North Carolina. Just the attitude of just like, just giving down the squinty eye, what the hell you're looking at, just very snap to with his movements. So, and here I am wearing a 50-pound Fallout suit at the haunt. So, which includes a backpack, actually 2 backpacks, food, even I even brought my own medical supplies. Like just I'll be honest with you, and I was wearing the gas mask.
Yeah.
So every time I put that on, like all I'm thinking is my lazy uncle, just literally just going through this cornfield, just try to find this cure for something that everybody could die from. So yeah, like and the whole exploration, like even some of the reference of some movies that I happen to notice, like especially like another snappy person that I figured out like how I can move was Michael Jackson.
Okay.
not thriller-esque. Like my study from him was from the what was it? The '93 Super Bowl. Like he was like when he just jumped out on the stage, he just like stood right there, like in stance, and just like it took him like not even a minute 45 minutes to move his head. So when he turned his head, everybody just went fucking nuts. So I was like, I may use that.
A shout out to I think it's Tony in the comments I'm seeing. It's a pain in the butt for me to try and see the comments over here, but I got it.
I'm not seeing any comments.
I had to open up Facebook in another window for myself.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna have to do that myself because I'm not even nowhere on Facebook. Just paying attention.
It's all good.
But go. What was he saying?
Oh, he's out.
He'll be back. Yeah, go ahead.
Tony was just talking about Nightmare City Haunted House. He volunteered at one of the rooms would have freaked the living shit out of Fester, he says.
Oh no! Tony was the pick man. His name was Porky Meets Him. So it's like it's a play on words of Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
So he actually did really good. So he was like this bloody ass what was it? A Porky Pig that owns a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And if you actually heard it, because in all honesty, Tony has a speech impediment, so it actually worked in his favor, where he could just go to any person that goes in that room, say, like to speak in his language, say, "Hey, you want these hands? 2 for $1."
Right.
So like Tony was incredible. Like incredible. And he was one of the actors that I told you before the shot where before we started streaming, he was the one that won the award for won the awards for best actor.
Gotcha.
And the development was not that hold on a second, let me turn this down. All right, here we are. All right, but go ahead. You was about to say, Mike?
What's that?
So you was about to say something?
Oh no! Like when you were describing like the pig stuff and everything, it just kind of brought up like a lot of Rob Zombie esque details from his movies.
Yeah,
or the pig man from Saw, but
yeah. Totally missed that. Yeah, Fester, I was just talking about Tony in the comments that he was Porky Meets Him from the Field of Fear.
Oh God, yeah.
Like he was just like
he actually made it on the Fear Factor review, so that was really cool.
Yeah,
awesome. Well, so what do you want to dive into with this, man?
I want to just go into this whole culture of horror, like even in some inspiration for like movies, video games, books, like what kind of that's why I say it kind of bothers me where I don't like horror, but I'm here.
Right.
So
see, when people tell me too that they're like, I don't like horror. Just in general, people are like, I don't like horror. But I'm like, horror aspects are in everything right now. Especially in 2022, there's like horror elements built throughout everything. And it's interesting because like, back in the day we had like Lon Chaney, Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Vincent Price, all those, great guys. Classic actors, classic horror guys, classic everything. And then, like, nowadays when people talk about horror, they're talking, like, what? Jordan Peele, there's a few others. But, like, it's still, like, Wes Craven pops into their minds, because you have, like...
Or John Carpenter.
Elm Street, John Carpenter. Right. But there's so many...
Sean Cunningham.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting to see how they close off such a big part of horror right now, just because they're only going based on like whatever was popular, you know, the main
Right.
popular
Oh, yeah.
films.
The
But I'm
trendy.
like, cult films are what built horror, and right now I see. So I always tell people this too. It's funny. Like I always see the main thing of horror that's being built into like main pop culture films right now, such
Yeah.
as like even comic book movies. The MCU is notorious for this. Star Wars, same as well. But like, so people are always complaining that we have all of these reboots or retcons and all this shit right now for all these new movies that we have out. Like, you know,
Yeah.
oh my god, they changed this in Star Wars. Don't do that. And people ask me, well, why aren't you so mad about that? And I'm always like, dude, I've been a horror fan since I was a kid. We've
Yeah.
seen retcons non freaking stop. You know, like how many times did Freddy's like backstory change, or Jason?
Oh my
Jason was
gosh.
a demon at once that came out of someone's butt and went back into another body. Like, are we playing around? Like, you can't give me this crap as like retcon stuff is new, or you know, changing one's backstory, or you know, and especially like they have the whole like, what do they call it, the Mary Sue thing, where the female character is supposedly too OP or whatever. I don't know. But I'm like,
Last
horror
Night
movies
Grave
had
from
that,
Star
dude.
Wars.
Like, you're telling me Jamie Lee Curtis was gonna win against Michael Myers versus like the douchebag like quarterback or whatever, you know? Like, come on. Like, so I've seen it like throughout horror nonstop, and I'm always interested to see why people don't recognize that, I guess. Because like I've said, we've seen it in horror so much. Even like the reboots, like The Fly's been remade a couple times. Like how many Frankenstein films have we had? Like the old school
Lost
Universal
Count.
Monsters. And, yeah.
Numerous.
Yeah.
All right, we got a comment from Tony again. He also exampled George A. Romero is another master of horror with the Night of the Living Dead series.
Yes.
He was originally going to make the Resident Evil horror movie series, which that was that grand.
I feel
but
so bad.
cold.
I feel so bad for Romero because he got really screwed just because they were all young and dumb and didn't file the proper paperwork. Otherwise, they would be bank in zombie stuff, man. They would own all of it. It was, oh man. Every time I hear that story and every new documentary and stuff, I'm like, it still makes me sad.
Right. And let's see. And I forgot. Yeah, I actually forgot. Resident Evil, the movie series, was made by Paul Anderson, the guy who did Mortal Kombat beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of my favorite movies, and I'll get to Mortal Kombat in a second. And yeah, like there's just so many remakes they actually decided to do where you know, like I guess it was up to expectation to the audience. I mean, compared to the producers that actually wanted remade.
Right.
And you know, which came to shit. Which exampling Resident Evil, the one they showed up on Netflix, where Blade was cosplaying Albert Wesker.
I haven't watched it, so I don't know.
But
I can say though, honestly,
it's definitely an interesting take on the whole Resident Evil series.
Like, from what I heard though, before that the show even came out, is they said it's going to be like an alternate universe type deal, where they were just gonna build. It was supposed to be its own thing, pocket universe, basically. That's why so much is different in it, I guess. But like I said, I haven't seen it. I can't talk much about it, and I also didn't give a shit about the video games. The only Resident Evil thing I really cared for was the Mila Jovovich stuff, and that's it.
Is that because she's hot?
No, I just love those movies, man. Like, I literally have a notebook. I sat down and watched each one and was taking notes and trying to find all the continuity issues and everything, and there's so many. Talk about retconning and shit, man.
Let's see. Like, Resident Evil was actually one of the games I got scared the most. Like, the PlayStation 1 version was fine. Like, you know, especially for its cheesiness. But it's the GameCube remake that literally had me turn off that damn system, put that GameCube in my closet, and not fuck with that until the next school year. And that
First
was
Resident Evil game I ever played on GameCube was Resident Evil 4.
Oh yeah. No, and you know that movie and that game was one of the best in the series. You know, like by default.
Mm.
But I was a cheapo. I played it on PlayStation 2 at a freaking very, very cheap price.
Well, if you want to talk horror video games too, like,
Yeah.
I mean, would you consider Doom a horror game or action horror?
I say action horror.
Okay.
I'd have to roll with action horror on that one.
Yeah. See, I was blessed enough to have known about the video. Like, I didn't play the game growing up. So when the first movie with The Rock came out, I was like, that's not bad. Then I saw the second movie and I started playing the game, and the Doom Annihilation, whatever came out on Netflix recently.
Right.
Horrible. After I played the game, I realized, oh, this is horrible. And then I realized, oh, Ghosts of Mars with Ice Cube is like the best Doom movie we're ever going to get. So
Ghost of Mars was an amazing movie. I really appreciated that.
I could point that out there. Right?
yeah.
So, but yeah, like even video games in their horror elements, freaking like going back to Mortal Kombat, like you know, full circle here, like that bleeds hard, like straight up. Like you thought that freaking the spine rub fatality Sub-Zero did, you know, just say hey, shout out to the Predator, you know. But yeah, like. It would, you would think like a video game would have still got me to double down like I did with the horror films back in the day. But for some odd reason, I could spend more of a bigger disbelief from a video game than that such.
Now, see, you mentioned something about Predator just a second ago too. So
Right.
we had Prey recently drop. Have you guys watched that yet? Or
No,
I actually was very impressed with it.
okay, what did you say, Q?
I didn't.
You didn't? Okay, well, it's basically all over internet, you know. There's a lot of guys out there complaining like, oh, a woman wouldn't have been able to do this if all these guys, like the commandos from the original one. I'm like, it's not about that. It's about the smarts. It's about using the brain power. And then they're going to say, oh, well, then you're trained to say the guys are stupid. I was like, no, she wasn't. They literally... Yeah, I'm not going to point out certain things because you haven't watched it yet, but they literally explain to you why. But the fact is, I'm like, how can you believe that Ripley can defeat a shitload of aliens, but this girl can't beat one Predator who seems to be retarded, by the way? Like, I don't know if that's...
Yeah.
You also got to put in the historical perspective. You know, they're very primitive.
Yeah. But they are Comanche. The Native Americans that they have in this are the Comanche, and they were more, you know, warrior based. Like they trained a lot more.
Right. They were more.
Yeah. Definitely. But I just wanted to bring that up because that's been something going on, and for some reason people consider Predator horror. I disagree.
I say that's the same line of action horror.
To me, Predator falls more into the science fiction aspect.
Yeah. More action sci-fi, like the Matrix.
And going back to like the male versus female thing, you know what ever happened to individuality? Like just because she is female, that does not implicate that it's speaking to all the women in you know, in its own genome. You know?
That's a really good topic for horror too, because usually you have the final girl, you know, in the slasher films and stuff like that. And, you know, growing up watching the final girl always winning, you know, she's always surviving, I should say, not winning, because sometimes they just get killed in the next movie, but surviving.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was going to say, but like you see them surviving, and so you move on to the next one, whatever. But nowadays it seems like when a woman, you know, wins at the end in movies, people just have to bitch and complain about it. And, oh, she's OP or she had too much, you know, plot armor or whatever. I'm like, Go and watch a horror movie, please, because they have so much plot armor. I didn't see you guys complaining about that 10, 15 years ago.
That's honestly what I love about the horror. What I love about the slasher films are the fact that they portrayed the women, whether it be the women being the sole survivor or the hero of the story. They were breaking those walls down years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, go ahead, Quinn.
Horror's been doing that for decades. Like all this stuff of like you know, they're saying that films are so woke now because the women are, you know, higher up, or, you know, you have black characters, this and that. I'm like, besides, you know, killing the black guy first in most of horror movies in the 90s, but, you know, horror movies have been utilizing diverse casts and female antagonists and protagonists both.
Right.
So
yep.
It's I don't know. It's one of those long, you know, diverse conversations that never go anywhere because everyone's always like, yeah, well, Rey shouldn't have been able to use the Force so fast. I'm like, really? Luke used the Force in like 10 seconds on a spaceship with some old dude.
Right. That's a perfect Jeff Dunham reference. Waiting to happen.
Sorry, I'm more of a Trekkie anyway, so I don't.
The struggle continues. Like, so you know, I don't think you kind of spoke on this, Mike. But what was one of the movies that literally? What was the first movie that literally got you scared of it?
The first movie that got me scared of it, or
yeah.
Well, I mean, the first one that stuck with me, like I said, previous Dolly Dearest was definitely one of the first ones that got stuck with me. But like once I started watching like slashers and stuff like that, I really wasn't scared of those. I found it interesting because there was an actual story there. But, you know, back in the day, in the 90s, at least that's the era I grew up watching this stuff. More so.
Same.
You know, watching the stuff in the 90s, all you'd see is like, you know, critics in the newspapers, because we didn't have the internet nonstop back then. It came in the late 90s. So you'd see critics talking about these movies and, oh, it's just a blood-filled blah, blah, blah. I'm like, did you watch the movie, my man? Like, and this
is some very good backstories.
Yeah, there were some good backstories. You know, I mean, granted, like I said, you know, Jason was everything, like everything.
Right. Yeah.
But like Freddy, like, you know, one movie he just came out of a dude, like this, like into the planet, like into our plane of existence, and no one wants to acknowledge that movie until later on, where it became like a big cult hit, like because it was like a really prideful movie for the gay community, for LGBT and stuff like that. If you watch that movie knowing that or thinking about it going in, you'll see a lot more of those elements. So it has a cult following within that. For it's Nightmare on Elm Street 2, if people don't know about that one.
Yeah, that freaking pool party.
Yeah,
that was like that was a moment. That was a fucking moment.
Oh yeah, but like I mean, you know, Freddy did that, and then the next movie, you know, they had Dream Warriors and all that stuff, and they just escalated it, and you got more of his backstory. Into like, you know, his mom was a nurse or a nun nurse, and then his mom was like raped by 100 dudes, like
son
maniacs.
Of 100 maniacs, son of 100 maniacs.
And the fact that they showed it in the movie too, like happening and stuff, and you had, you know, Robert Englund like was the guy without the face, like the without his Freddy makeup on. You're like, oh, that's Freddy's dad, because I hope to God not all 100 of these impregnated one egg.
Right.
But then they did the remake, which annoyed me because, and it sounds really bad, because in the original, you know, Freddy is a child killer. That's it.
Yep.
In the remake, they made him a child molester, and I'm just like, oh, I definitely, it's hard to say, like, I can't root for the molester, but I can for the child killer. It's like, you know,
that the reboot that they did really pissed me off. And if you actually go online, you can actually find an interview they did with Robert Englund. Like, he was beyond disgusted with the reboot.
Well, especially because if you remember all the jokes that Robert Englund's Freddy did, and then put them into correlation with that one, and it's just like, oh no, like,
Right.
Yep.
And you know, it's kind of funny how you mentioned that because like you also got to understand the rumors, you know, how most people would try to twist the story around, you know, like assuming that, you know, Freddy Krueger was a pedophile back in the day. And but and literally just put it in, you know, on that script per the recent Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like what they did with like George Takei's character in Star Trek, the reboot movies and stuff in the Kelvin timeline. They made the character, they made Sulu gay in the thing, and they're like, why? And they only did it because he is gay in real life, and he was like, why did you do that? Like, you didn't need to do that. Like that serves no point to the character, and it's not the character that Gene Roddenberry wrote. So at the end of the day, you're just doing it because you want the service. You think you're doing something good, and with the Freddy thing on that side, it's like you're not doing anything good. You're just no. Like,
you're hurting the credibility of the franchise.
Yeah, because the whole thing with Freddy is like Chucky. You know, they became like pop culture icons. Like you root for them, wear them on your shirt. Who's gonna go out and wear a child rapist on their shirt? You know, I didn't see any merchandise for that reboot movie that I can remember. Yeah.
No, I even haven't the chance to even see that film.
You know, it would be like them doing that would be like saying, oh, Jason was molested as a kid by the camp counselors and then they drowned him. Like, why would you do that? You're completely changing not necessarily a massive part of the backstory, but you're changing enough of the backstory to make the character really unlikable, or like the case I said for Jason, you'd make it understandable as to what he's doing.
Right.
You know? So, I mean, granted, they did kill his mom, so that's understandable too.
Right. Yeah, so, yeah, like just the whole horror universe, I guess I guess the one reason why I'm more compelled to be in that in such universe is it's not, you know, like everybody's just like me, but the difference is, you know, like some people prefer to edit their own selves. Like, you know, go ahead. You look like you're about to say something.
Well, knowing you, man, like I've known you for many years now. When I lived in town and stuff like that, and knowing you, I think like just like me, like being in the community of, I guess, the horror community, you want to call it, or like the scene of like the gothic scene or whatnot and all that stuff, or punk scene and shit like that. It's like I felt that there were more accepting of everything that I was, because like I hung out in the community, but I didn't dress like everyone, but they still accepted me in that community, you know, like juggalos. I didn't paint my face and stuff like that as a juggalo and go whoop whoop and stuff, you know, but I was still accepted, you know. So and that was one thing I always found was really cool about it, was the acceptance. And if people ever like listen to me on any of my other shows stuff, I'm always open to hearing everyone's opinion. I'm always like accepting of lots of different things, and I think that's one thing you can do in horror community is feel accepted. And as far as my memory serves me, like I don't ever see like the massive gatekeeping with horror movies as we do with like Star Wars, Star Trek, you know, any MCU film that comes out, you know, all that stuff. There's so many gatekeepers out there. They're like, oh, you can't do this, or you can't like this thing because it's not true to the original thing. I'm like, fuck off, you know, sorry, but you know. So at the end of the day, I think like I haven't really seen it in the horror community actually until recently, with the new Monsters movie coming out. I'm sorry to bring that up, but Rob Zombie's doing the new Monsters film, which comes out on the 27th of September. on Netflix and DVD and all that crap. And like I do a Monsters podcast at the moment, and being within that set group of the quote unquote horror community, because it is part horror, you know, it's sitcom horror, but it's still built within the horror genre. You know, the Universal Monsters is what most horror things are built off of at the end of the day. So seeing the fandom split so much, and there's so much gatekeeping in there because some people like the Rob Zombie movie, some people don't like the movie, and the people that don't like the trailer, like, because you can't even say you don't like the movie, it's not even out yet. It's like, you don't like the trailer, okay, but there's just so much.
I'm very anxious to see what it's gonna be like.
Yeah, me too. Yep. Yeah, I definitely.
It's like another example that's going on is the new Wednesday series that's coming out. And everyone is giving crap about who's playing Gomez Adams.
Yeah.
Louis Guzman.
Louis Guzman's, and he's perfect casting too, because it seems like they're going based on the comic, you know,
going off the original.
Yeah, the original comic version, and that's what they did for the last two animated films. So why wouldn't you stay focused on that for live action? Plus, it's Tim Burton doing it, and everyone wanted Tim Burton to do an Addams Family thing for decades. So just shut up, people. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Like,
exactly.
And also, to speak on that, like, I think a lot of people are disrespecting it because, you know, we're seeing more Louis Guzman than Raul Julia, which, you know, like, who was the first movie Gomez Adams. You know, and he was great. Awesome. You know, rest in peace also. But the one thing I would not stand, especially for a fan, I am not disrespecting two Latin kings, okay? Like, there's no disrespect in my house with that. So, so I guess it's for the fact that people are still tied to that nostalgia, that they're not accepting the assumption. You know, it's like, dude, why is he so fat? It's like, because he's Latin. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah. They're used to Gomez being like a suave guy. I'm like,
super skinny.
Didn't Tim Curry play Gomez in one of the '90s Addams films, like the straight to
TV? Yes, he did. I think it was like the third one.
Yeah. The Addams Family Reunion or some shit like that.
Yes, that was the one.
Yeah, I'm like, Tim Curry is not a suave guy, guys. Come on, like,
not by a long shot.
You're only picking and choosing like what you want to reference, and I say the same thing with the Munsters film too. The people, it's like, oh, it's in color. I'm like, clearly you didn't see any Munsters content after the show because it's all been in color.
Right.
Yep.
Every single one, even the original Munsters film with the original cast, was in color. I'm like, it's ever since it was off TV, it's been in color. The only reason it was in black and white was because they were too cheap to do it in color. They wanted to cut the budget. So, yeah.
It's just a bunch of fair weather, as I call them with sports, fair weather fans.
Yeah.
They want to jump on and have their little voice heard, and they don't even look back at the originals.
Well, it's something I've noticed with that I noticed in other franchises too, is like half the time they're people that only remember the very first spot of it. They don't remember everything that came afterwards, unfortunately. But anyways, that's like the only spot where I really see like I've seen recently anyways with gatekeeping in the horror community. As a whole. I'm sure there are lots of other ones out there for the games, and Resident Evil I think has been getting some shit for it, so.
Well, you also got to understand, especially from Capcom itself, like Resident Evil is beyond the most inconsistent game series.
Yeah.
Like, so even if we try to make sense, it won't make sense at all if we started like whichever first series we're gonna do. Like, where is the first movie, where is the first game, where is the first book? Like, the inconsistency is just written off at the start.
I do know they cast what's his face as Wexler?
Wesker.
Wesker, yeah.
Damn, what is
What's his name? I forget his name. But the second I saw people bitching about it, I was like, oh man, they should have totally went Dennis Rodman and just bleached his hair. Like gave him a
Yo! Yes!
That would have been funny.
Especially how incredibly kooky that Wesker's character can be. I think Rodman would have been the perfect Wesker if they actually put that in place. But at the same time, we got to remember, this is Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman's too busy trying to work out our international relations right now, please. Don't bother the man. You know, he might fix the world one of these days.
Yeah, that's a huge maybe. That's a huge
It's not even a maybe, it's a
I played the fifth on that.
Oh boy. Like I think all three of us can by unanimous decision. Actually, is there any books that you guys got into, like horror books?
Yes, actually, one of the first series that really interested me when I was a kid was Anne Rice.
Yeah,
going off the Vampire Chronicles. That was my really big turn on to books.
That's a good one.
Well, I'll state the obvious here. Like mine was R.L. Stein with the Goosebumps series.
Goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, like the first book I read from him was The Haunted Mask, and it literally freaking got me to slam the book because of how like that claustrophobia, how you explain how the girl like wore that mask and literally just like I was like, oh nope.
I think anyone who was a Goosebumps fan, that was one of their that's where one of the first books they read was The Haunted Mask.
It was either The Haunted Mask or the Slappy, the dummy one.
Yeah.
Oh god, slapping.
Yeah. I mean, who didn't who didn't wake up the morning that the school was doing their big, book sale and take $50-$60
I was that kid, okay? Like
and bought all the Goosebumps books,
Oh, I was even more ecstatic when they brought it on TV. I can't tell you how often I'd wake up on Saturday morning just to watch it.
Yeah.
No, I remember...
Goosebumps is one of those great ones. R.L. Stein is a genius, because he did kids books, teen books, and adult books, and it's just crazy because I've seen many authors, and I've never seen an author, many authors anyways, that I can think of, do multiple age groups and stay actually relevant.
Well, it's actually funny you're talking about that because it brings me back to an old school for all us older people here. That was on Nickelodeon that has now been rebooted to now go towards the adult customer basis. Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
I gotta say, that's one of the series I tried to get into, but not so much because I was living in a Christian household. So if anyone that shitted down my freaking experience was my parents, but
and if we're going it's not a book, at least I don't think it was based on a book, but digital or audio visual, I should say. Ghost Rider back in the day, I think it was PBS.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
dude, the creepy guy with the purple wrinkly dub face and stuff, it was just a little puppet. And I was just like, what the heck is this thing? And I actually saw a picture of him not that long ago on the internet because I was looking up where the heck is this show streaming, because it's actually a good show for kids to watch if they want to get into writing and stuff. Or definitely something I took up.
I got one for you guys. What was one of your first TV shows that really interested, that horror TV shows?
Come on, Tales from the Crypt. You can't.
I was just about to say that. The Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, and then because they did Tales from the Crypt for the adults, and then later on Fox did Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which was the animated kids version of it,
which I watched.
Yep.
I have both of them, and it's freaking awesome. And then that was around the time too that you had Friday the 13th did a show somewhat similar to it, and
So did Nightmare on Elm. So did they did it with the Freddy series.
Freddy did it too, and he would you could tell they just shot a bunch of videos with him doing an intro to nothing, and then they just added it in because he wasn't part of the show. But yeah,
right.
I'll tell you another good one that my mom introduced me to when I was a little kid. Dark Shadows.
Yep. They recently redid that.
Funny enough, I can actually tell you this. My mom named me from that series. Quin was a character in Dark Shadows.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny you brought that up.
So that's why you're actually into the horror community, even though you're not.
Well, you shut your mouth, okay?
I gotta agree with Myke on that one.
It's destined to be, my man.
Now I can just tell my mom posthumously, look, gee, thanks, But yeah, so yeah, I guess that's the one reason why I appreciate horror, because there's so many elements that I can blend in, even if I didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with some of the writings I've done for people, even for characters that I built, even during my D&D campaigns, because this always has have one haunting characteristic about per character, which I would love to elaborate, but I'm running dry on time here. But otherwise, I guess the last question I wanted to ask was, is there any advice for anybody that's getting into the horror culture, as a newcomer? What's one advice would you like to give them, just to ease themselves in?
That's a good one. Because unfortunately, with there's so much horror going on right now. There's a renaissance of horror films, which is awesome. And you, like I said at the beginning, you get to see horror elements built into everything nowadays.
Yeah.
So, even that creepy little scene in the kids' PG movie where the light gets dim and you hear the music, that's horror elements. That's it's made to give you some tension and all that. Everyone thinks horror is just slashers and guts and monster flicks, and I'm like, no, that's not all horror. But as far as first getting into it, understand the kind of content that you like. If you like comedies, find a comedy horror. If you like action, find an action horror film. Find something that's going to be fast paced, not slow for you. My oldest kid, he's 13, and we recently started getting into horror stuff with him. We watched the Fear Street movies, the Fear Street trilogy.
That was a good series.
That was a pretty good series. And that's actually a pretty decent series to get started in, because it does a lot of different types of horror within the series.
I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's one of the best introductions for someone going into this, one, to keep an open mind, and two, the Fear Street series would definitely be that. Like you were saying, it throws everything pretty much in there.
Yeah. And R.L. Stine, again, you go back full circle to R.L. Stine, you can't beat it. And again, I would also, suggest, pay attention to age, your age, where are you mentally and stuff like that. My kid watched American Psycho with me the other day, the first one, and he knew what was happening before the movie ended. He was like, oh, it's this. I was like, all right, so now we can watch different movies because you're mentally up above some of these psychological films that are a little, even some adults still don't understand to this day. So, but yeah,
that means you, Quin.
He's just like, I don't. I'm just here.
Nobody was like, I don't care.
I mean, I have recommendations right now for people. I pulled a few from my shelf.
Besides Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Actually, I was going to point out the fact that, okay, so I got this Black Lagoon movie. It was $2.
Oh, nice.
From a dollar store in town. It's the plastic still on it, right? I got it home. Realized the plastic was cut open. The disc was moving.
Oh,
And
hell no.
I was like, I got this from like the ghetto-y ass store ever. And they're out there stealing horror films. This is proof that like horror culture is everywhere, man. And that was my story with this, because it was so true. I was like, you know, a classic. You just can't pass up stealing a classic, even though it was $2. Like, come on.
I think another master of horror that people that actually, I guess you couldn't really consider a master of horror, but if people are introducing themselves, start with the Stephen King series.
That was one of my recommends, was Pet Sematary.
Oh, nice.
Classic.
And I was actually going to use this to work in because it has Fred Gwynn in it, who played the original Herman Munster. And everyone should go out and watch The Munsters and listen to The Munster Cast on all podcast services, because that's where I'm at. Also on YouTube.
Interesting. I said, tell you to plug. All right. So is it any closing, closings you guys want to say, at least promote your brands?
This is a masterpiece film by Rob Zombie. I'm just going to say that.
It is a masterpiece film.
Okay, so funny thing you mentioned that. So when I used to hang out with his brother, when he was in Toledo like years ago, he used to come in like just like wearing a white t-shirt and this big ass jacket, just walk in the door, just walk in. It's like, hey, you want to watch a horror movie? What you got? And he points out The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
And I was looking oblivious. Like, the hell is that? And I was like, well, so I'm about to play it in my room. I was like, you want to invite her to show up? It's like, yeah, I'm good. I feel like a dick for, I felt like a dick for even saying no, like almost instantaneously.
The thing is with that one, unfortunately with that one, like the one before it kind of put a lot of people off on Rob Zombie. And actually, if you look into it, he was actually told he had to spend more money on the end of the first one, which kind of like confused the shit out of a lot of people. So, the studio was all in on fucking Rob Zombie over on every film. Apologies again for the F word.
No, it's sorry. I mean, we've been throwing it like it's a freaking game of football, but dude, if you want to go first and toss out what your recommends, because I know you didn't get a recommend out, or your socials and stuff. Well, my recommendation, like as far as I can say, like Silent Hill 4 would be the best advice, because that game, like, I think was one of the best horror games I ever played.
Okay, game. I was like, I don't remember a 4 movie, so I was like, wait, what?
No, the games, because although we're talking about horror culture, is definitely in that circle. So, definitely get Silent Hill 4 on the PC.
Okay.
So that'd be one of the best advice. But otherwise, like, obviously going to be here on Facebook at the Mighty Quin, and on my Instagram at Insta Mighty Quin, and and what have you. Like, you guys see the ticker. So otherwise, I'd like to thank Myke Shrews for Operation Battle for showing up. It was an honor having you on my podcast.
Thank you, man. And actually, real quick, I don't want to do this again. I promise. I do want to recommend everyone watch X. If you have not, watch X, because the sequel is coming out. It's by Ty West. It was just in theaters, so it's like out on all VOD, every place you can buy a movie and shit like that. So find this movie. It's great, especially if you love like old school slashers, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Why the hell did I say it like that? Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's good.
Definitely check that one out. It's a really good film. And again, thank you, Quin, for having me on here. The Mighty Quin for having me on here.
I appreciate it.
I love horror. If you ever do this again about horror or anything else, I can just talk my ass off and waste time if you need it.
It's your profession. I mean, like,
yeah, definitely.
and also, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and just find me at Myke Shrews anywhere. Like Quinn said, Operation Babel and the Munster Cast on all social medias, on all podcast services, and YouTube as well. That's my big one I'm doing right now, so I'm focusing on that.
Yeah, like Myke has been my sensei for quite a bit, especially with podcasting, especially trying to get this going on, especially this program called StreamYard, which I invited you in with, Fester. Like this, I'm not plugging StreamYard. I'm not plugging.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, right. So with that being said, Fester, thank you so much. And also, I can't wait for our new season of Field of Fear showing up in the next, few weeks?
Opening night will be September 17th.
All right. So, yeah, not far along from here. Not far along.
As long as COVID doesn't put me in isolation again.
Oh yeah, definitely, amen.
Did you hear you don't have to do that anymore? I think they stopped all that.
Still 5-day quarantine. I'm on my fourth day right now.
You guys are up in Ohio. I live in Florida. COVID didn't exist.
yeah, Florida don't give a fuck.
No.
But with that being said, thank you guys, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace. Where's it?
Later.
There you go.